So welcome everyone to our community update for June 1st. I'm going to jump right into some statistics as always. So we now have a total of 69 open source developers and 988 GitHub stars, nearly at the 1,000 GitHub stars, so close. In the last 2 weeks, we have added 42 new community members to our Slack and 55 new community members that are spread across some of our other platforms. So welcome, of course, to all of our new and returning community members. Good. So I just wanted to do a reminder about our community office hours and give a slight update on them. These are happening every week on Zoom and that we have these office hours. And the Zoom links are pinned in our general and announcement channels on Slack. The slight adjustment is in the Indian Standard Time, IST time zones that are happening on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This has moved from 11 to 11:30 as this was able to fit better into the team's schedule. So they requested that we move it just back by half an hour. So that's the update. The Pacific Daylight Time, the PDT time that happens on Wednesday and Friday, still happens at the same time at 11 a.m. So this is your opportunity during these times to join us if you had any questions, if you wanted to talk with the team, or really just pop in and say hello. So for our upcoming major release of 11.0, our tentative release date is for June 23rd. The planned features for the release are actually currently fixed at the 7 that we announced in the previous community meeting. This is the list of our 7 here. And I have added, of course, the GitHub issue numbers so that you can track all of these planned features and you can track their progress as we move towards that release date. Now, I've highlighted these features a couple of times, so I'm just going to say we have a variety of exciting additions planned. A couple of them include column level lineage, data collaboration, and our SSO security features. So we're going to jump right into the main section of our community update this week, which is some featured changes. So what I will do is I'm going to hand this over to a few of the others that we have here on the call with us, and they'll just give a quick update on these. So first up is actually Teddy for his Great Expectations integration. Teddy, would you like to share your screen, or are you planning to just talk?
Yes, I can share my screen.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and give you control here.
All right. So let me share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. All right, so it's going to be a fairly quick and simple update about Great Expectation, but basically the update is related to the ingestion of data quality results from Great Expectation into OpenMetadata. So we've implemented a sub-module in the ingestion module that will work with Great Expectation checkpoints and allow us to implement a custom action in Great Expectation that will result in the ingestion of the data quality result into the OpenMetadata instance. So the setup is fairly simple. So I have an instance of OpenMetadata running on my laptop, as well as an instance of a Postgres database with some data inside. So here is a sample row. I've ingested this table into OpenMetadata, so you can see it right here. And then in my Great Expectation folder, I have created an expectation, which has basically all of the tests that I want to run against my table that is in Postgres. And in my checkpoints folder in Great Expectation, I have the classic template that you would get when you create a checkpoint in Great Expectation, and then I have added an element under the action list in Great Expectation, which basically allows to implement that custom action when you execute your Great Expectation checkpoint. So that implies that you pip install the Great Expectation submodule in the environment where you are going to execute your Great Expectation checkpoint. You will need to define a configuration with the different elements that you will classically define to be able to communicate with your OpenMetadata instance. So right here, there is no authentication security implemented. So it's a very simple configuration, but you can implement the security configuration that are supported by OpenMetadata. And in my checkpoint, what I will need to define, it's going to be the module name. So in our case, it's metadata.getExpectations.action. And then the class name that we have defined in the submodule, which is right here, OpenMetadata validation action. And then you simply need to paste the path to your configuration file. So our configuration file right here is that configuration file right here. And so it by default, it will pick up any file, any YAML file in your path that is named config.yaml. If you want to name it differently, you are able to add a custom file name in your configuration right here. And then once I've defined my checkpoint, I can simply run my Great Expectation checkpoint. In that case, it's called Postgres checkpoint. And I think that's it. And then once I run it will execute the different tests. So, and as you know, there are certain tests that are supported currently in Great Expectation and in OpenMetadata. So if you have tests defined in your Great Expectation expectation file that are not supported in OpenMetadata, you would just get a warning message and it will just skip the ingestion of those specific tests. So after executing your checkpoint file, you can go back to your data quality tab in OpenMetadata and refresh our file. And now we can see that we have our Great Expectation tests that have been ingested into our OpenMetadata instance. And that's it for me.
Amazing. Thank you, Teddy. That was fantastic. Wonderful demo.
Yeah, that's great. If I, sorry, Marisa, if I just may jump here.
Yeah, of course.
So in terms of data quality in OpenMetadata, right now, when we want to run any tests or we want to also like define tests into our tables, we can do everything directly from the UI, right? And in the same way that we support how to extract metrics and so on from tables, we support as well some set of tests and some set of validations that we run on top of these profiler results. And that's great, but what happens if someone already has some data quality motor, some data quality tools that they are already using, but they are also interested in this global view of the metadata that OpenMetadata brings to the table, right? That's why this PR from Teddy has been an amazing help and a huge, huge boost for all of those users that are currently working with Great Expectations. I mean, it's an amazing tool. It has a big, big, big community. So actually being able to bridge all of these users and saying, hey, you are also capable of using open metadata is a huge added value to us. So yeah, thanks a lot, Teddy, for your work. And we are also super excited that Teddy is going to join the open metadata team as a full-time contributor with us starting on Monday. I had the chance to work with him in the past. He's an amazing engineer. So thanks for all your help. Thanks for being here and playing with us. We're going to have lots of fun.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You stole my thunder. I have a whole slide set up for you, Teddy, but we'll get to that in a minute. Just kidding, Perry. The next thing that we have that we're going to be talking about is data quality. And Perry, I think you're talking about that with Harisha. He's not on the line. Are you planning to share your screen?
I actually didn't have this prepared, so maybe if you can just
no problem.
share
we can do it next week.
The slides. No, it's fine. We can give the update
sure.
about like what we're going to bring. So
yeah, sure.
So yeah, continuing.
I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
No, not yet.
Oh, 1 second. Let me get that up for you, and I'll just put the slide up again if that works for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry,
okay,
there
sure.
you go.
Perfect. Thank you, Marisa. So yes, in terms of data quality, as we were saying, right, we can run and we can define some tests directly in the UI. Now we can also integrate these test results that are run in a third-party tool, in this case, be it Great Expectations. If anyone in the community is actually using any other tool to run all of these, and they would see this integration happen in open metadata, just ping us. Okay, this is something that we are also super excited to discuss. If someone wants to collaborate on this, then even better. But this is just a part of the picture, right? And as Teddy said, there are currently some tests that are supported in Great Expectations that are not yet supported in open metadata. So here, what we will also do is, bit by bit, keep bringing all of these test definitions into open metadata. We also want to keep improving and keep increasing the number of tests that are covered by our profiler workflow. But there will always be yet another test, right? There will always be some specific use cases, some specific validations that people also want to track. And it will be actually hard from the development team to keep pace with all of these incoming requests. So part of the improvements that we're going to bring into the data quality for 0.11 is actually a feature that will allow users to define their own tests definitions, right? So for example, we have a test that covers if a value is between a maximum and a minimum. But I was just seeing Teddy's demo about Great Expectations supporting the median of a value being between a maximum and a minimum. So even if that is not covered today in the open metadata test definitions, users will be able to actually bring that definition into open metadata and tag this definition next to a table, so that via any tool that integrates with the open metadata API, they will be able to send these results and see all of this together with the rest of the metadata, right? So this added flexibility will be a huge improvement for those tools that are not yet integrated, and also those test definitions that are not yet integrated. So we will still have, on the one hand, the profiler workflow capable of executing specific set of validations, but we will be flexible as well to being able to ingest and keep track any new test definition that a user might need.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Perry. So I believe we were going to have an update on the collaboration and tasks from Vivek, but I think he might be having some trouble getting into the Zoom. The Zoom was giving a couple people some trouble today getting logged on. So I think we'll maybe save that for next week. And I think Mohit is on the line with us, and he was going to give us an update about the Java SDK. Are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Marisa.
Hi.
So,
Do you want to share your screen?
yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll stop.
Can you see?
We can, yes.
Yeah. So I just took a reference from your PPT and created one for SDK.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Okay, so the idea behind Java Client SDK is that normally when we have some REST endpoints, so we do have SDKs which enable the end user to communicate with the REST endpoints in a very simple or easier way. So we already have that for Python in OpenMetadata. Similar thing we are trying to create for Java as well. So anybody who is developing Java application, a developer or somebody would like to interact with our REST endpoints, they can use the Java Client SDK to do so in a much more easier way. So the idea is that we want to provide an easier access. We do support different security mechanism. For that, we have integrated that into the SDK as well, so that the user doesn't really need to do anything. He just needs to provide these secrets and those information, and the SDK will handle the rest of the steps. Apart from that, our APIs are well documented. So we have some YAML files that we generate. For that, I'll show you. Okay, so this is the sandbox. I'll try to log in with my account. Okay. This is just to give you an idea as to what we are trying to do. So we already have our APIs here, where you'll be able to see we have the documentation. So the same, the way this is generated, we are doing the same way, just that we are generating the client. For that, now we have a new module that is Open Metadata Clients. Under that, we are trying to work on the Java client. And if we see the catalog service in here, we have the Swagger YAML, which sort of gives us this information that we see on the UI, right? So this is something that we are using to generate our client as well. If you go to the POM file, we have a plugin which helps us to generate everything from that YAML file. So what we do is we provide the input of that Swagger YAML. We specify the language, that is Java in our current context. After that, we have the library. So Feign is a declarative REST client that we are using to enable users to communicate with our REST endpoints. Okay. So when we run this Maven POM file, what we get is some generated files. I would like to just go over those to explain what these are and what we are doing here. So this is what is generated out of this particular plugin. So we have all the APIs. So if you see all the APIs that we are supporting, we have general, boards, charts. These are different categories under which you'll find what all methods are available, right? Okay. Yeah, you see, we can list all collections, we can get airflow configurations and stuff like that. So similar to that, for each entity, we have different API that is generated. You see bots API is there, catalog API is there, charts API is there. Right? If we get into that, what we'll see is we have an interface that got generated. And what we do here is we specify the endpoint. So this is automatically generated. This is the definition for the Feign client. Here we specify the type of method that we are using, that's post, and the content type that the API endpoint is accepting. That sort of information we are specifying. Okay, so this is what we have in generated code. We also have an API client which help us to interact with the Feign builder, which will give us the REST client. All right, now getting to, now we have a gateway as well, which is sort of a wrapper on top of these generated code, which will enable us to communicate with our REST endpoints. So this is the class that you need to initialize, you need to configure it, so to communicate with the endpoints. So now I'd like to demo it to you. We have this main class. Okay. So what you need to do is, like, I have configured this to work with our sandbox. So I've signed in with the Google Sso. So we need to create something known as a configuration for Google Sso. So this is the audience where we will be able to fetch the API using this particular endpoint. After that, we specify the secret files. How do we get the secret files? We can go to the docs that we have. We can follow the process for the Google Sso. At the end of it, we will get something known as secret JSON or a JSON file which contains our secret data. After that, what we need to do is we need to create some configurations. We need to define the host port. As you can see for this particular one sandbox, the endpoint is sandbox.open. So the similar thing I have given here. We give the API version that is currently v1. We say that the authentication provider is Google, and we set the security config. After that, what we do is we just invoke the gateway, right? So this will enable us to communicate with the endpoints. I'll just show you a couple of things. It is much easier to create the endpoints, right? If you want to have something from the user's API, what we can do is we can just go ahead, create a user's API client, asking the gateway to give us or build a client. And if we go to user API, we see that what all APIs it is exposing. It is saying create or update user, create user. Apart from that, delete user. We also see there is something known as list users, I believe. Yeah. Right. So we use this. So what we are going to do is like we have all the users here. If we go to the UI, so if you go to teams and users, so we have a list of users. These are all the users that we can see. What we'll do is we'll try to fetch all this information using this client, directly hitting the endpoint that is exposed. So I've already created this client. Now what I want to do is I want to ask it to get me the list of users. So what I'm doing here is just asking the client to get me a list of users. And if you go to the method list users, we see there are different parameters as well, but those are not necessary. We can just call and get everything. So currently I've just passed an empty hash map, which doesn't really contain any parameter. All right. So now I'll run this application just to fetch the list of users. Right. You see, we got a list of users that are there. We have all the information, like this is the user list that we are getting, and the data contains all the users that are there in the database. So this is one of the users. After that, we have second user. So we have retrieved the list of users. And if you go to the end, we see that nearby we got around 44 in total. And after that, if we want to fetch any user, we can use this identifier, pass this as parameter and get that as well. Apart from that, we can do a bunch of stuff as well. Like if you want to use the API or the client SDK to directly invoke creation of the users, then what we can do is we need to create a user. So this create user is the request body that we need to send. We need to set a name, description, email, some sort of information that is required by the endpoint just to process this request and create a user. Now I ask the same client to create a user for me, which is going to return me the user that it creates in the backend, right? So let's just not list it now. I'll try to run this one. Let's right. Okay. Okay. So the user it created, it already exists. So we can maybe change the port users. So we see we will be able to create a user directly calling the API. You see, this was the user that got created in the backend, right? Apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. If you go to the generated code that we have, here we see all the APIs that are listed. For bots, there is bots API. What you can do is just simply do bots API. We can say bots API. I want a bots API. I want to create a bot client. Then I want to ask the gateway just to build the client for this, which is going to be bots API. Right now, what it will do is it will enable me to call all the things that are related to the bot. Right? We're gonna see. We want to list bots, which is going to return a bot list. Right. Okay. So it accepts, I believe, empty hash map. It also has the same parameters. Right. We just created a bot client, and it will give me a list of all the bots that are there in the backend. Right. So let's try to run it. Right. So currently there are no bots. That's why we got some empty data. But I believe you get the idea. If we just want to consume any of the API, we just ask the OpenMetadata gateway to build the client. We directly call the method, and we can do a bunch of stuff with that data. I'm just printing this stuff out. So yeah, I believe that's all. Just to give you an idea on the code that we are doing, we have something known as fain client that we used for the calling of the endpoints. We have something known as request interceptors that we are using. Those are just to, let's say we want to log some requests just before it is sent to the server side. So that stuff we can do. Or if it is something like applying token to the request template, that also we can do using the request interceptors. So these are a bunch of terminologies around the fain client. So yeah, that's all I believe from my side.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the demo. That was fantastic. Feel free, everyone, to come off mute. I see people clapping. So thank you very much to everybody who gave us a little update on our featured changes this week. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen again to end off the meeting. Where's my buttons here? Here we go. Share that. Okay. Yes, so I'll just move to the next slide. Okay, so I like, of course, to end our meeting by highlighting some of our community members that have put a lot of effort into contributing with us in the last couple of weeks. And I know everyone has just heard from Teddy, and he merged, of course, the PR where he implemented the Great Expectations submodule. I won't go through it any details, obviously. He did a much better job than I ever could. So thank you, Teddy, for your awesome new feature and your overview today, of course. He's done an amazing job. And as Perry said, he is actually going to join the team. We are all very excited. So he'll be joining us next week. So we look forward to having you on board, Teddy. Thank you very much. So this week, I just wanted to have a quick moment to call out some of the community members that have opened a GitHub issue, because that really helps us make OM better and understand where the community members are wanting in features and helping us file bugs. And we really appreciate that. So each one of these members has opened a GitHub issue for us in the last couple of weeks. So thank you guys so much for that. And I will just round out our meeting with the most active community members from the last couple of weeks. Teddy is on here, of course, for his PR contribution, but we also have Nermit, Christian, Abhishek, Sean, and Lucas. Thank you guys for all of your contributions the last couple of weeks. And I always, of course, thank all of our community members for everything that you guys do. Are there any questions from our presentations or anything from at the team? I actually can't see anybody if anyone has a hand up. So let me just pull this over here. Not a lot of questions today. If no one has any questions, I will give people their time back. People's time is very valuable and I won't hold you on the line. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming. A big round of applause to all of our community members and our presenters today. Thank you guys so much for putting the time and effort into showing us those features. It's really great to actually see them be demoed. And I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Okay? We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for coming.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye.